Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's time for the J. Craig podcast. Playing on headphones near you.
The apocalypse. Whether it's a giant rock hurtling through space, aliens, or zombies, the world can and will come to an end. Are you going to be able to survive? Welcome to Anatomy of Apocalypse, Part 1, Doom and Gloom. Now, between books, and video games, and movies, prophets of predicting the end of the world, we're going to discuss the very many ways the world can come to an end.
Can and will, it seems like. But what happens after Armageddon? What happens after the bombs drop or the aliens invade? How are we going to be able to adapt? Pick up the pieces, start over again? Can we make the tough decisions? And what are you going to do to survive?
That's right. I'm Jay. This is Rob Free.
What's up?
And this is the J. Craig podcast. Hey, if you're new to us, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hit the subscribe button, like and follow us, and check out all of our podcasts, all of our movie reviews, and all of our tutorials that we keep pumping out. So thank you for being here. And I'm a huge, huge fan of the apocalypse. I've been a fan of this genre ever since seeing The Road Warrior back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I love the desolation, the bleakness, the death of the old world, the birth of the new. I like the choices and the characters. And while I find it all fascinating, it's also a bit terrifying. Because I put myself in those positions. And am I going to be able to make those tough choices? Am I going to be able to survive long enough to help my family? Am I going to be able to survive? So that's what I love about this genre.
Right.
What do you love about it?
Well, I mean, I tell you what, I'm kind of on the same way. I mean, the first time I saw Road Warrior...
You don't say.
Exactly. But you know, for me, the death of the old world, the new of the beginning, that absolutely put myself in that situation.
Right.
Ever since I saw, Steel Dawn or something, with Swayze. I mean,
Steel Dawn.
First he's in
Nice.
Roadhouse. I mean, and Schwarzenegger.
Right. Yeah.
Our idols, really. Growing up, these are heroes and our idols, and usually they were kicking some butt in a post-apocalyptic universe. And I didn't quite know what it was until I guess it became a genre all of a sudden, and then I was like, I'm hooked. Yep, I've always loved it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's the thing is it's attracting as a child or as a kid, because of there's all these science fictional-esque type of situations. But then when you actually get older, there's so much more going on in those stories. There's so much fodder for material.
Absolutely.
Between survival and everything
And don't
else.
forget that middle stage, which is like teenage years.
Right.
Boy Scouts, survival. I mean,
Right.
a lot of that stuff started coming true. I was like, I built a fire. Oh, they built a fire. Oh, that's what I would do. And then what would you do?
Right.
And I think that's it. We had this topic. You had a great idea. You called me up and said, we got to talk about the apocalypse. And I'm like, sign me up. I'm 100% in.
That's right.
So.
I'm a huge fan of this topic. So we're going to jump in, and now we know what we love about this genre. And a lot of this stuff is going to come out when it comes to movies and video games. We're going to always, that's where my inspiration comes from this genre, is the movies. That's primarily, but there's also a lot of books and all that stuff. But first, I want to talk about the prophets. The prophets who predicted the end of the world first, because that's where this all starts from, right? We have, obviously there's stuff in the Bible about, Exodus and or which one is the end of the world one? I forget which Bible or which book.
The Book of Revelations, I think,
Revelation,
at the end. They're like, well, guess what?
Right.
Yeah, the world's going to end. And everyone's like, and people take it really seriously.
And they do. And then you have
across all cultures. But
people like Nostradamus, right? Now, the predictions he made are like 2/3 have come true. And so now they're trying to figure out and decode the rest of this prediction and see if we can, figure out what's going to happen next, right?
Right. Well, let's break down some of that. Did I drop something over there? No, that was you.
That was my something
cool.
I was dropping there.
Right.
So now someone called Edgar Casey. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't heard of.
So he was the first person to actually and he was an American. He actually put a date on these predictions.
Okay.
So he predicted that in 29 there was going to be a stock market crash. He said, make sure you get out of the bank or get your monies out by X date. And then shortly thereafter, the stock market hit. So he was the first to actually put dates on this stuff, which was, the thing with Nostradamus is what people say when they look back and say, oh, yeah, well, we can predict it now. We can see it after the fact. But how come you can't use these to predict what's going to happen so we can stop it?
Oh, wait, and it's definitely not like pinpointed to the day,
right?
Or maybe the year. But even
this is the final one where he actually did by the year.
Yeah, well,
that was
maybe
interesting.
Coincidence or not? Who knows?
But he also he predicted World War II and that when the U.S. would be involved. So I mean, he really did, and a lot of his stuff had to do with like volcanic and earthquake activity.
Wow.
He predicted that I think it's the west coast of the United States is going to be swept underwater. We're going to lose a lot of land with these earthquakes and everything else that's happening. So he called for the west coast will be totally gone. total devastation.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
Now that's one. Now you have someone called Joseph Smith, who is a Mormon who created a lot of interesting. We had a lot of interesting prophecies, and one of them was the White Horse prophecy, and their predictions more of an economic collapse, and they would be the people who would live up in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, who were trying to survive, would come back and help establish order. They would help establish order again in a civilization once everything kind of calmed down. So they would hide up in the mountains and then come back down when that was the White Horse prophecy.
Interesting. That's kind of,
so you have
kind
that
of a
one.
blend of secular and sacred.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Say it's still okay.
All right. So now Saint Malachi. He was the one that
Saint,
predicted
so
about
church.
Yep.
Okay.
Church. Yes. So now we're talking about more about
Catholic
the popes.
Church. Yeah. Right. Catholic Church. Then. Okay.
He had predictions about the popes, and a lot of his predictions really were exactly on about which pope and how they were actually described. And he says, I think it's the 112th pope will signal the end. And I believe we're on 111 right now.
Or so, right. Okay.
So we're right there. The next pope is going to. It's not that he's going to cause it, but he's going to be in place when this happens.
Or in that era. Okay. And again, maybe that's boiling it down to a 5, 10, or maybe even a 30-year period that someone could be pope for.
Sure. Exactly.
So but still, I mean, I guess look around. I mean, we see so many signs of this deterioration.
Right.
I mean, in all different categories, we'll probably get to and how this will happen.
Absolutely.
So is that far off or not? I don't know. A lot of people have certainly chimed in about it.
You're right, and there's a lot of people who have their theories about this, and there's a lot of speculation, and of course, it's interesting because you're always, when's the world going to come to an end? Can you find a way to predict it so you can prepare for it?
And how? And see, I keep asking this question, but it's like I'm such a nuts and bolts guy. Okay?
Right.
So let's dive in kind of to, I mean, what are we thinking here? I mean, like, what are the different events that can happen?
Wait, I got one more here for you. This one's important because say Isaac Newton, Sir Isaac Newton. He's the one here that's kind of different from the rest. There's no religious backing here. This is all more science, right? And his prediction was the year 2060.
Okay.
Was the world would come to an end. He predicted, like the 4 horsemen, which is the same thing as the Bible and Revelations, where you have that's war and famine and it's war, famine, Antichrist, and plague.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those are the things that are going to come. That's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah, did we mention this episode's called Doom and Gloom?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, just want to throw that out there.
This is the Doom and Gloom episode. Part 2 will be completely different. Yeah. Right. So this is the sour, the dire part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're right. No. So now that's the predictions, but they've been predicted in lots of different ways. So that's the kind of people who have predicted this forever. Right now, let's dive in to how.
Yeah.
Apocalypse how.
Apocalypse how.
Okay.
So let's take it from like maybe 2 different kind of categories, okay? Because I know we did some brainstorming on this. I think let's divide this into something that's maybe a little more of a realistic category. That's like, global warming, pretty realistic maybe.
Okay. So realistic versus fictional.
Versus fictional, right. Okay. And then so the second category would be like fictional. Let's say ghosts. The devil himself was living, bugs come up, like Gears of War, for example. I mean, we can give examples. So let's kind of divide this up into factual, more realistic, could probably happen. To maybe the far-fetched, alien invasion or something.
Right.
So
so let's start with which realistic or fictional?
Realistic.
Let's go with realistic first.
Or factual.
Okay. So how about let's start with, you said Mother Nature.
Mother Nature.
Okay, so you have volcanoes, you have Yosemite,
the tectonic plants,
Yellowstone Park.
Yellowstone
has a super volcano underneath.
Oh, really?
It, and it's due.
Wow.
It's due.
And this is like a Mount Vesuvius type thing.
Yeah, but it's underground.
Yeah,
right?
We know from past cultures.
Right.
Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii was completely covered in ash, and everyone just died. I mean, now that
immediately just frozen in time.
If I was a person in that village or even one town over, that would be apocalyptic to me.
Absolutely. Okay.
If I was an American Indian and lived on the other continent when that happened in Greece,
right?
I don't know. I mean,
it's not affecting you.
There might be some weird lights. Sometimes you get, some towns over when there's a fire or ashes, there's like the ashes will blow in, so they wake up and it's a red sky. Like, what happened? Well, a fire happened 300 or 3,000 miles away, and it was just all clustered. And so weird weather patterns can happen, and a lot of things they tie to these. And I wanted to circle back to the first part.
Okay.
A lot of these people are like, it was raining blood that day. Well, actually, the iron ore mixed with water and it made red, and it wasn't really blood, but everyone's like, it's blood, and it probably smelled like iron, which is blood.
Right, so now
back then,
fire and brimstone.
Yeah, they didn't know iron oxide and blood oxidizes. They didn't know, you know what I mean? There was no modern
That's coming from God, right? That's fire and brimstone.
Exactly, so we can't forget a lot of these probably were And don't get me wrong, maybe there was also some sacred revelations and some things.
Right.
You know, that's up to be decided for the audience and for whoever. But yeah, you know, that they can be realistic events that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, but back then they would have called it a godlike event. So
Absolutely.
yeah, a volcano blowing up, that's like a God's wrath, right?
Right.
You know,
absolutely. Tectonic plates, earthquakes, and having tectonic plates move. You're going to have big tsunamis. You're going to have just a lot of devastation. But you bring up an interesting point. You know, if you have an apocalyptic event where you live and it doesn't affect anybody else, is it still, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, does anyone hear it?
Right.
It doesn't make a sound.
Doesn't make a sound, and does anyone care?
Right, exactly.
It doesn't impact anyone.
So the Native Americans, while they might not be affected by Pompeii, but what if, one of the settlers who came in and destroyed their civilization,
that's true.
That's also an apocalyptic event.
It's kind of like an alien invasion, right? They were thinking,
right,
the hell is this? They show up with guns and horses, like,
welcome, and then boom, and then all of a sudden, yeah. So I mean, it's all about perspective.
True,
right?
So, we got to bring that up during.
But a lot of this, when we're talking about the apocalypse and the apocalyptic events, we're talking about those moments that are going to really change the world. Not just because it's something that happens, like the super volcano that's going to erupt eventually. It's going to happen eventually. When it does, that's going to affect the world.
But it is going to be a very quick, almost quickish or quickly happening thing.
Right.
Because you could say stock market crash, economic collapse. Yeah, there might be some pandemonium, maybe some looting, but it's not as much of like a
immediate.
The freeways are all packed. It's like, wow, eventually we're going to end up like, Metropolis, 1927, or Elysium with Matt Damon. I mean, all these different stratified societies. That seems a lot more realistic. I mean, heck, it's going on right now in Chicago, one of the most stratified cities in the U.S. Here's the poor people. Here's a line. Here's the rich people, or the working class poor guy. I mean, divide it up. But there's been a lot of commentary in books and film for the last 100 years, really, addressing that. And that's a more realistic thing. But that is a dystopian future, and we talked about that.
Yeah. So
let's divide that up. We have apocalypse, and then we have like a dystopian future. So Mother Nature exploding something and all hell breaks loose. That is definitely more apocalypse.
Right.
But all of a sudden we put too much greenhouse gas, things melt over the course of 50 years, and now we don't have, now it's water world. Is that apocalypse or dystopian? It's hard to say. So we don't need to draw a line today, but it's something for the viewers to think about.
Dystopian is, I think, either the aftermath of something years and years and decades and centuries later, or something that wasn't cataclysmic for the entire world, right? Okay. Where the world was able to survive, that's right, and it just had to change, right?
Huge change.
So that's not...
And how quickly did the change happen?
Right. And so there's two different sides of that coin. Like we're talking about the Road Warrior. And the Road Warrior, you think of it more dystopian, but I look at it as it's a wasteland. It was manufactured based upon war.
Right, based upon a bomb dropped, an apocalyptic event.
Right.
So yeah, we've thought about this, folks. Yeah, we have.
But at the same time, that's why I'm always curious about the fact that if it happens in Australia and doesn't affect anybody else, is it still... but I think in this terminology, what we're trying to say here is something that affects the world. Something that affects the world.
Right.
The whole scope of the world ending and civilization changing as we know it.
So you could put a little parentheses before doom and gloom, like instant doom and gloom. It's more of like that, because we're trying to react here. These are events here. Right. An outbreak. So let's go down the list here. So
we have Mother Nature. So we talk about the global warming, floods, all that kind of stuff, volcanoes and earthquakes. Right. So now let's talk about war.
War, but we just did. That can happen.
But nuclear fallout, that's going to affect...
A bomb drops, boom.
Right. But if there's one bomb, that's going to affect generations in a lot of areas.
It's going to have to.
But we're talking about massive scale, where you have multiple bombs being dropped, where you see the big ones that are all over the place, and that's level extinction. We're talking about where... you're not going to survive. And if you do, then what? But that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But okay, so you got war, you got Mother Nature. Pandemic.
A pandemic, okay.
Okay, so you got
there's your zombie outbreak. Right. If it's a zombie virus. Or just massive death.
So
how about people just dying?
So the zombie thing is a segue into the fictional part of it.
That's true.
But pandemic would be there's a
bird flu, swine flu, SARS,
every
Ebola.
Certain amount of years there's a pandemic.
Right. Actually, and I've heard virologists we're due for one. Actually, long overdue exactly. Well, and we have modern medicine now, which has probably delayed that a little bit. But here's the thing. It's going to happen, and when it does happen, it's going to be on a large scale because now there's even more people. Right. There's even more people flying around. Look at the grids and how that transmisses and passes. Right. I mean, the cholera outbreak of like 1700 or whatever, there wasn't that many people, wasn't that many dense population areas, and they certainly the hell didn't have airplanes flying everywhere.
And you don't know if you don't know you have it for a little while. For instance, we just went on a trip, and my son had come down with the flu. We didn't know it until he was on the flight.
And you just all...
Exactly.
And you didn't know, but everyone's at risk.
And all of a sudden he started having symptoms like, oh, well,
I bet you other people did
right,
too.
Right, but what if it was something very, 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 very serious where it was something much stronger than that, you know?
Everyone on the plane would have caught it. You would have caught it.
And then that passes on to more people, and then it just becomes, it just spreads out really, really drastically.
And that's a realistic event.
It is. So. It's scary, too. And that's why Contagion, the movie Contagion, have you ever seen? It's a Steven Soderbergh movie.
Yeah.
And really...
Outbreak.
Oh, man. Another one. But the Contagion will terrify you. You'll want to wash your hands 100 times a day. It's terrifying. Yeah. Outbreak's the same thing. Guys in the movie theater. Coughing, and that's getting out into the people. Everyone gets sick. All right, so
and don't forget asteroid. Yeah,
the
last one. That's I was thinking that's kind of natural too, like rocks and volcanoes.
Giant rock hurling through space.
It's wiped out the dinosaurs. I think that's kind of what happened, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna wipe out humans.
And so that's the thing is they say that the chances of it happening are slim, but there's so much going on out there, and all it has to be is one rock has to or an asteroid belt. One rock has to get knocked off course.
Yeah.
And just get lined up to where you are, get pulled in your atmosphere, and we're toast.
Yep.
And they say that we won't, even with all the technology we have, it'll happen so fast we won't be able to do anything about it. Like you might be able to have missile defense systems. You might be able to try to blow it up like we've done in Armegeddon.
Like stop the school bus. Everyone's throwing rocks at it.
Right.
You're like,
exactly.
that's cool. The school bus is still going.
If you remember Independence Day, they had the tribes in Africa with the spears and the ship was crashed. Like, what'd you do? Throw the spear up?
Well, that's all I know. Exactly. But it might as well be that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Too little, too late.
So there is the realistic, the more probable ways that they're working on. So now, but let's get into the fun stuff. This is the fictional stuff, the stuff that inspires us, the things that I've written about in the past, things that have really got me going here, really, for creativity. But how about we start with aliens?
Sure. Or aliens. This is just one category. Okay, it's like you got your aliens from outer space. You got like demons from another dimension.
Oh, interesting.
So I think all
you're
your
going
monsters.
Supernatural and
aliens. It's the same thing.
Okay.
And like Bird Box is a great example.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Are
these was demons? It supernatural? Was it an alien?
Aliens? Yeah. We don't know. Were they always here? Is it? So what is that?
A Quiet Place. Were they monsters?
I don't know.
Aliens?
Exactly.
Were they underneath subterranean? Are those still aliens?
Oh, are they exactly right? Because I brought up Gears of War, which is they get the bugs were always there. They just finally mounted their offensive, and they call that E-Day, Emergence Day.
Emergence Day. Okay,
it's sweet, cool. But that's an apocalypse.
That's an apocalypse event. Exactly.
So what's that?
Okay, so we got
the next one, the
robots.
Robots.
So with something that we're creating our own, and it's getting scary and scary these days. With first with privacy, with all the stuff we have going on.
Yeah,
but when it comes to artificial intelligence,
I
mean, we're trying to create beings. First of all, we're trying to create cars that can drive themselves.
Yeah.
That's the first stage, right?
Yep.
Having things do things for you. You got your iRobot, you got your everything, that can do stuff for you.
Right. Now, I studied a little extra on this topic.
Oh, you did?
I'm fascinated by
interesting.
This.
Okay.
Really what we're scared of here, Matrix, Terminator, the robots rise against us, is artificial consciousness.
There it is.
We're not worried about artificial intelligence.
Okay.
See, first we had artificial physicalness, right?
But without artificial intelligence, you can't get the consciousness.
That's true. And I'm going to give you a brief history. Strap on your seatbelts. We're going back to the 1800s. We're going back to the Industrial Revolution. I think this is the late 1800s. When all of a sudden we realized steam power engines could replace men working.
Right.
And next thing you know, a lot of men were out of jobs because this bulldozer or this machine could do it better than you.
Right.
Doesn't get tired. Machine doesn't get tired. And that was like, are you kidding me? That like made people's heads explode. They're like, I can't fathom this. Oh, the machine took my job. Fast forward, now we have artificial intelligence. The computers can do it more intelligent than we can. Not conscious, not emotions. We still, I'm not going there yet, but now the computer will always be right if it's programmed. It'll never get tired.
Okay.
It'll never get the brain function is always 100%.
Okay.
It can never be influenced or change its mind, or can it be hacked? That's another topic. But so AI really, and we're seeing that now. Yes. Libraries are closing because of the internet and the information age, right? Now we're getting into the truth age. And this, my friend, is where artificial consciousness might come to play.
Okay. Do tell. So the truth age.
The truth age, how the hell do we know if something's right or not? If it's true or not? Because humans lie all the time.
Because the internet is full of information that's not always correct.
Right. So now we have intelligence figured out. Oh, AI. AI is not going to take over the world.
Right.
Artificial consciousness will.
Okay.
So the next revolution, guys, in another 100 years, because now it's the end of the 20th century. It's 1990 or 20. It's the beginning of the 21st. Excuse me. 50 years from now, 80 years from now, there'll be another battle. The robot, now we stopped having psychiatrists, we stopped having therapy groups, because now you can just pour your heart into this robot that has this compassion and is programmed to have this consciousness and feel bad.
Right.
Something where you go unplug it. Don't unplug me. Oh no, it has a consciousness. Now that we all know from our movies and from our canon there, guys.
Right.
That's what takes over the world. It decides that I decided humans are the virus. So the answer to saving the earth is killing all the humans.
Exactly.
We've heard that plot line.
Right.
So.
Many times, right? That's but I love that plot line.
So that's AI, and that's almost realistic. That's why when I researched that, I was like, oh shit, that's probably realistic. But AI is realistic, but I don't think it'll actually happen.
Right.
But artificial consciousness is more fictional, because honestly, trying to get a robot to believe it's a person, I mean, I know that, it's in movies a lot, but I think
we're just playing Detroit Become Human.
Great video game, by the way. Thanks for bringing that over.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the whole idea there, is they're finding, just like in Blade Runner.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
They're finding a consciousness.
And I won't spoil the ending, but there's a movie on Netflix with the one guy, the really funny Latin actor from Crash, and he's really funny. I forget his name. He ended up being AI in the end or something. They didn't know. It was called something. It's on Netflix. It's good.
Okay.
It's good. They twist the script. I probably ruined it anyway, but
we don't know what it is. So.
But I don't know what it is. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
All right, so
this is my favorite.
Right.
This is the one that I think everyone loves when it comes to post-apocalyptic genres.
What?
Zombies.
Which is a pandemic gone wrong.
Right.
Which is an AI gone wrong.
Right.
And this is like the artificial consciousness. What happens if not only does everyone die, they come back to life.
Right. And now you have your friends, your family members, people who you might have to be dealing with in that kind of shade of light. And the fact that, I think the one thing about zombie movies that frighten or that we love so much is the fact that we're the beaten, eaten alive thing. I think that's the terrifying part about it. Whenever I have a dream that has a zombie and it's about somebody's being eaten alive.
Or somebody I love even too. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Not necessarily me. Yeah.
Right. It's not usually. Yeah, exactly. I'm watching it happen through a window or something. Or, it's that's the terrifying part about it. But I think that's what really dominated over the past, 20 years or so, is zombie movies. Right. You have a lot of post-apocalyptic movies, and there are a lot of different movies that have a lot of different types of house.
Okay.
The apocalypse how.
Yeah.
But zombies they're rampant right now. They're just everywhere.
Oh, yeah. It's popular.
Very popular.
Yeah, popular pop culture,
popular.
Dude. Yeah.
Right.
Because there's the different types, and we don't have to go into that. Because like I dissected all the different...
Is it a fast-moving zombie or a slow
Right, a
zombie?
runner? Is it a jumper? Is it a Resident Evil 5? The zombies were now riding motorcycles in chains.
Or is it more of like rage?
He's an infected.
Yes, or are you the animated death?
All right, we just went into it. All right,
okay.
So anyway, that's not the point of the podcast, but that's one.
But zombies are a very important part of the apocalypse,
yes.
right? And that's why I chose the zombie shirt.
Oh yeah,
right.
See that. Nice.
But there's
nice.
the way. So you have a lot of realistic ways that are probably going to happen. Then you have some that are more far fetched, or those that might not happen. But the alien thing for me is something that I'm fascinated by, because I think it's possible. I don't know if it'll be an alien invasion that's going to wipe out humanity, or an alien invasion that's going to bring us into a new age. But I believe it's going to happen. I believe that's there's more out there.
Yeah, I believe there's more out there. I'm very doubtful that they'll ever make contact with us, even just because of the law, the way the universe works.
You're right. That's stumble upon us.
Like two specks of dust in my entire house actually colliding.
Right.
In 100 years, it might happen actually, but
exactly. But you never know. But that's what I'd say.
But there's got to be another speck of dust somewhere that has life on it. Yeah.
But what I think is most fascinating about all this stuff is just I can't imagine that happening, so it's so fascinating that you're seeing this happen, right? It's that unknown, that unrealistic aspect that's so fascinating. All those crazy situations that you can find yourself in, and that's why we love these movies and books. Yep. So okay, so now
that's how it might happen.
That's how it might happen. Yeah. So now let's talk about after Armageddon.
Right after that initial event. So let's say like an hour after you read on the news, right? Or a day after you wake up.
Okay.
Or 28 days later, right?
Right,
28 minutes later, yeah. So right, that's how the event happens. Then what?
Then what?
We have different scenarios, I guess, we have to discuss.
Right. Yeah, and now let's stick with zombies for a second.
Okay.
Okay, because since we just talked about that. I found a study. It was from the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Leicester. I'm assuming this is in England. So now what they did is they did a zombie study, and they said that there's a scenario 1, I'll make this really quick, so it's not going to be a super big study that I'm going to give you off here. There's a 90% probability that the person who meets a zombie will become infected. Okay, so you have 10% chance of hope that you're going to survive an encounter. Zombies die after the first 20 days. If they don't feed, humans live without food for about 30 days.
Yeah, so that's typical. You might think, how long do they live for?
Right, so right around there. Okay, now 20 days later, zombies have a meteoric rise. So after that first outbreak, 0 day, 20 days later, super big outbreak.
Okay, right.
But over the next 3 weeks, most of the world population is wiped out. Okay, that's for the next 3 weeks after that first rise. That's when most of it gets wiped out.
That's based on the 20-day lifespan.
Right, exactly, of a zombie.
I think what that is, right, because what that is that's showing infected. Well, eventually the ones that were being infected 20 days start dying. So then you get a die.
Exactly.
But it's going to be such a massive,
huge.
I guess, so that would be the fictional reality worlds of like the horde that we see.
Right,
the hordes, either Walking Dead or the games you play. There's always hordes.
So many,
oh my gosh.
Hordes is what's frightening about the zombies,
ridiculous.
Right?
There's so many.
So now on day 100,
181
uninfected people will be left on the Earth. 181 uninfected people on Earth.
On the entire planet, only 180 people?
After 100 days. So now that's scenario number 1. And our
good luck writing into
prospects are gloom. Right? They're very, very gloom. And doom. Now, scenario 2. 10% of chance of killing a zombie when you encounter it. So now you have a 10% chance of killing a zombie. Okay? As opposed to a 10% chance of surviving, you have a 10% chance of killing a zombie.
Oh.
Okay? So now you can eliminate some. Now, zombies last 1 year without eating now. Instead of 20 days, they last 1 year without eating.
Oh.
Okay? At 100 days, there are 200 million humans left.
Okay.
At 1,000 days...
So that's 3 years.
Right?
3 months. 3 months, there's 200 million. So a lot, quite a bit.
67 million left.
So still a lot.
Still a lot, but we've cut it down quite drastically.
200,
And then now the zombies will disappear over the next 6 years.
Okay, so that's more of like humanity's not destroyed.
Right.
I'd say 181 people left on Earth.
You're done. Everyone's done. It's toast.
I mean...
At that point, good luck.
Yeah.
So what this tells us is we're all toast.
Yeah.
Right? In any scenario, but at least there's one scenario that has a little bit more hope of survival, of civilization restarting.
Right.
And then, but,
And no one really knows anyway. I'm a science guy myself. It could be a hybrid. Here's the one. I think those are two extremes. But often cases when you present extremes, it's a blend. It's somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. So something in the middle there.
How will it swing? I don't know.
Right. So maybe 100 million.
Yeah.
Or 200 million.
Right.
Or 120 million. Who knows? But, all right. So now, so you survived, right? You're one of those 20%, or you're one of the 181, or you're one of the 200 million.
Yeah.
Now what?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what I'm fascinated by this topic, because we're not talking about post-apocalyptic yet. We're talking about the apocalypse, right? So we're talking about the days leading up after that, right? So it's not post. It's like the onset.
It's kind of happening right now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's what you keep doing what you were doing.
Okay. Well,
because if you were bunkering down, sheltered, yes, you survived that onslaught. 5 years in your doomsday bunker. Keep doing it.
Okay, but let's say you don't have a bunker.
Okay.
Something happens. I'm sitting here with man.
Yeah.
We're having a podcast, and the apocalypse happens in our backyard somewhere, and all of a sudden, everything goes dark. There's no communication. There's no electricity. Everything's gone dark. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
I can't tell what's going on in Michigan with my family.
Right.
You don't know. We don't know what's going on in the news.
Exactly.
So what would we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Would I just take off in my car?
Yeah.
And go with my family?
I gotta go.
Probably.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
I probably know, man.
Well, I don't know.
What are you gonna do?
Exactly. What do you do now?
Now, does Rob say, no, man, you need to stay here?
Yeah.
You need to stay here with me, so we can,
or we'll go together. Right,
yeah, we should probably go together because
but everyone's trying to go.
Right.
So
So what do you do? So do you stay put? So that's what I find fascinating. Is I was traveling through Ohio for work one time, for a lot of times actually, and I kept missing my family, and I kept wondering what would happen if electricity, like cell phones and everything went dead, like there was an attack and an EMP and there was no communication. What would I do if I couldn't get out of Ohio? If the roads were stopped, the borders were closed, and I couldn't get back to Michigan? How would I do? What would I do? How hard would I be able to try to get back? What would I do? That's what I wrote a screenplay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
About trying to figure out, like, how do I get back? And is this nationwide, or is this just in Ohio?
Yeah.
Is this worldwide? I don't know, but I don't know where's my family.
And that's usually the case of what ends up happening.
Right.
I mean, the word will travel. And that's usually the first thing, when someone knows something.
Right.
I mean, if I knew that I saw an alien and I looked at another guy and he didn't know, I'd be like, oh, are you serious? You mean you don't know? I mean, it'd be one of the first things you tell. So we're not going to be able to deep dive right now into human nature. Human nature, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to tell him. I'm just not going to tell him. I mean, so just like contact in a virus can be transmitted, information is going to be transmitted. And hopefully we dive into that. I don't know if we'll save it for this episode or the next episode.
Which one's that?
But information and how humans pass information. Like, how would you find out the nature of the outbreak? How would you find out if it's a volcano that, or a nuke went off, we don't know.
You're hoping that, exactly. So I think that's a great part for part 2, but you're right, is when you're in the immediacy of what's happening, how do you find that out? And you're going to listen to people. If someone comes by and says there's a big robot walking through the city.
And they probably would say, that's what I'm trying to say, human nature is the good. Guys, you guys got to watch out. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
I always think about human nature because the majority of human nature will do that.
Yeah.
So let's delve into some more case studies. I like those case studies because we have Katrina probably is a case study. I don't know if we'll delve into these per se. We're not totally scripted, folks, but I'm just throwing it out there. So Katrina happens and people, help. There's a blackout. Remember that blackout in 2003-ish?
Yeah.
So what happened there? What happened? So we do know a little bit of glimpses.
Right.
And what ends up happening is people rushing to help, man.
People
care.
Do. People do. There in Katrina, there was a lot of people that kind of formed like their own little Marines, not Marines, but boat Marine, Marine ports. They were taking out their boats and looking for people and
rescue,
and helping people,
exactly.
rescue people. Thank you.
Yeah.
They weren't forming armies, but they were forming safety. How to help people.
Well, but that brings up another good point.
Right.
Who's keeping law?
Well, then you have that,
and you have the moral code. That's a lot. That goes for a lot. Honestly, when all hell breaks loose. And someone's looting and there's a lot of people watching, chances are someone watches like, what the hell are you doing? Don't do that. You're going to rush in.
Right.
But 100 days later or 3 years later and you go and you see someone get looted, you're like, I'm fucking out of here. He's probably going to loot me next.
Right.
You know what I mean? And look at that shift from being like, I better see what's going on because that ain't right, to I've seen that all the time. I saw that one time even worse than that.
Right.
And that time I barely got out with my life. So
you
don't know what's happened to you after a day, 3 days. I haven't eaten in days. What happens then?
Okay, now
Wait,
hold up. That's part 2. Let's hold off till we get to that point.
What are we doing there?
Because that's the different part of the human element, like how you change there. But let's talk about that. So we talked about when something does happen like that, but what happens to civilization? The garbage stops being picked up.
Yeah, I think that then the workers go on strike. Did the workers go on strike in New York, and then the garbage didn't pick up for 4 days, and it really screwed a lot of infrastructure up.
So you have all this happening.
Rats, got out of control and things like that. But.
So but that's the thing is that's going to happen. But I do want to come back to the Katrina again.
Okay.
Because I kind of fast forwarded a second there. You're right. People are going to come to help, and that's our first thing. Say we're going to help. But once stuff starts getting a little too hairy, where supplies start getting low, or where you're right when the law stops being around and people start looting, and then it becomes once one person starts doing it. Yeah. It's just that's all it needs, right? That's how riots start, right? One person doing something.
Yes, another human element.
Right. And so that's getting down that road.
Even waiting in line. If someone's just waiting in line, people will come up and just wait in the line. They think something's in the line.
Right.
Someone's done a prank before. They're just waiting in line for something. And everyone's like, oh, I was waiting in line.
Exactly.
And next thing everyone talks, and then the guy's like, there's no line, guys. Everyone's like, what? That's human nature. We're like animals. We can't wait to line up for something.
Right, exactly. But
we freak out. Everyone freaks out, right? So yeah,
right, yeah. So that's the scary part about it. So, but once the Armageddon does happen, whatever it is, what happens when the gas stops? What happens when you can't get your car filled up anymore?
Well, the electricity stops. Guess what? Yeah, the pumps stop.
Right,
and we experienced that. I in that blackout.
Right,
I was in the Michigan area.
Okay,
and traffic lights weren't working. But guess what? There was next thing you know, there's a guy directing traffic there.
Sure.
So Good Samaritan comes out. Okay, but then the gas pump, no pump. And there wasn't, or gas pump wouldn't pump because no electricity.
Right.
So, but there wasn't a person there with a hand pump. All right, guys, get your gas, and he's metering it. No, they didn't set up shop. They just shut down.
Right.
They just said done.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you gas for free.
So the only way to get gas would be to steal it and do something illegal.
Right.
If you wanted the gas, too damn bad. That's pretty much what they said. So,
but think about this.
What?
Gas stops. The stores will stop being filled up.
Actually, that's truth because that's something that I've either seen on bumper stickers with semis. I do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you like stuff? Well, guess what? If these semis stop driving,
you don't get your
within
stuff.
a week, the grocery stores will be bare. That's really crazy. That's how much people it is. So
when you go to a grocery store and it's bare, you're like, wait a minute. It's
more will come. No more is coming. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And so I've thought about this in my past. That's why I love this topic. Is like I should stock up stuff. I should have water. I should have canned goods. I should have things in my basement ready for this particular situation.
True. But the reality is, and I think we'll get into this maybe, but the reality is, Jay, that's only going to last you literally a day to a week.
Well,
to a month.
you have to plan for, what was it, 30 days or 3 months. You need to plan for 3 months worth of
I've tried to do it
stuff.
myself, actually. I've tried to do it myself, and it is excruciatingly hard.
Okay, and expensive, because here's the thing. Not that, I mean, you're saving yourself from the apocalypse. It's priceless, but at the same time, I was watching something called Doomsday Preppers.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular one. People
Okay,
probably
so,
know that one.
yeah, Doomsday Preppers are pretty cool, and when they talked about this guy's bunker and his food supply, and they graded it, his food was 12 years old. His little rations that, the military seal, that they're supposed to last 3 years, are 12 years old.
Oh, that won't do.
So now you have to keep recycling.
It looks good on camera, but it's
Right.
not in reality. You're going to open it, it's going to be worms, make you sick. Actually,
Right.
you'll probably die from that.
If you have exactly, so you have to plan ahead, but you have to keep cycling through it.
Yeah, that's
you can't
true.
just have a stack full of water. You can't just drink that water after a certain time frame. It's gonna be, you have to iodine it or something, or boil it.
Oh, make it safe to drink.
Right, make it safe to drink again.
Sure.
But so how are you going to use the water if there's no water? How are you going to do anything if
That's
there's no
true.
water running? We don't have
Right.
wells that not everyone has a well we can pump from.
Right.
So how do you get your water? So there's all these things that happen with trash stopping and rats.
Power stopping. And here's
Power
another thing that I
stopping.
wanted to bring up, folks. What happens when the nuclear power reactors stop getting cooled off?
Right,
Automation. The robot comes in and the robot dumps the motor that opens the valve that the water cools off. That's not happening anymore.
Right.
Or what about a pandemic? All the people died, so the people that usually even do the manual release, because I'm sure there's safety mechanisms, trust me. We're not going to have nuclear meltdown because the power goes off. But
Right.
I mean, in Fukushima, an earthquake happened,
Right.
and now we're still having nuclear water just spill out. I mean, by the doom and gloom, and that's reality, man. So
Right.
that's folks. That's actually depressing.
That's
but
truth.
but if you look at a map, I don't know if you want to overlay a picture of all the active nuclear reactors. That would kind of set you up, because where are nuclear reactors? In population dense areas.
Right.
What are prone to pandemics? Population dense areas.
Right.
What are prone to all freaking hell breaking loose? Population dense areas.
Right.
So exactly. That's why when I look at that map, I was like, now I know the areas I kind of need to head for.
Right.
You know what I mean? That won't have the zombies. That won't, hopefully
That everyone's
have
going to be heading
the craziness.
for, right?
Well, not everyone will be, but I mean, certain people will. And of course, the people that watch this episode, now you know.
Now you know where to go.
You'll know where I'll be. So
that's the thing. Is that we're here now, though, right?
Yeah.
And it's happened.
And it's true. We're not. We have a nuclear power reactor like a lot closer than you think
And
right now.
one, as I'm driving back home, I passed
You're going to
by.
pass the Sandusky one?
Yeah.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
so
Yep.
they're there, right?
Yep.
And so if this happens, what do? You have to make those choices. Am I going to go try to get my family?
Yeah. Is that even doable?
Right. Is it even doable?
Well, here's a good one. We'll get to this at probably the end of today. We'll set it up. Do you do it alone or with a team?
That's exactly right.
gotta set that up.
Exactly.
So we have to talk about that.
But that's the thing. So you run out of water. You've got to plan ahead. You're going to run out of food eventually. You're not going to be able to get to a store. You can't get into a store. They're going to be closed or they're being looted already because people will eventually turn on each other.
Yep.
We do have the capacity to help, and we will help.
Yeah.
And we will always help to a certain extent.
Yep.
But I think it always comes to a point where, after a certain time, desperation is going to kick in.
Right.
Where I'm over here, I can't help you with that, ma'am.
Yeah.
I got to get back to my family.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And I can't risk you hurting me, so I can't get back to my family.
Now we've dropped a few little references here and there with movies and stuff.
Of course.
But whenever I hear you talk about that and like things are all good until they're not.
Right.
Recently, you lent me the audiobook of World War Z, and I've always wanted to watch that, but or read that. Excuse me, I always wanted to read it because the movie's okay, but not Mel Brooks, but
oh my God, Max Brooks.
Max Brooks. He wrote it the way he fleshed it out, and I didn't realize till I completed the audiobook. I was like, man, he fleshed out an entire world with just words on a page.
Right.
Brilliant. The guy was brilliant. The exposition, interviews, and it's set up through a lot of interviews, but here's the thing. The interview took place where he's interviewing her name is Jessica or something, and she was speaking from a civilian standpoint pretty much.
Okay.
I was young. My family fled. We thought we could fled north, and the zombies would freeze to death or they wouldn't find us. And so everyone's a great exodus migration. Exactly what I was talking about. Head for like Montana. Head for the place where there's no nuclear reactors, where there's probably not a lot of zombies. It also depends what the nature of the threat is.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But she said the first nights, it was like a tailgate. It was like a party.
Right.
Everyone's so friendly. activity. Different fires were popping up. People were handing each other beers, and I have some food. You ran out. You need diapers? Have some of mine. No problem.
Right.
And then she explained, a few minutes later, but well, fast forward a year.
A year later,
things were quiet. You rarely heard any laughter, if any.
Right.
Things
Right.
were dark. It was quiet. No people had their windows rolled up now. They had their tents closed. That's human nature. And
Yeah.
she said because we ran out of supplies, frankly. We
Right.
didn't think that the winter would last that long. Plus, also, I think in that world, because of, and goes back to what we talked about, the apocalypse of the virus caused some kind of nuclear winter. I think something had to explode. I think we tried to nuke the zombies or something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, guys, let's go back to the first section. It's not just a pandemic that causes the apocalypse, that causes a dystopian future. There could be so many combinations
Absolutely.
of this. And
Yeah.
actually, the masters of the storytelling, and we'll get to this hopefully when we share our personal favorites,
Sure.
are the ones that can intertwine that.
Yeah.
So that's why when
Right.
Jay and I were talking, like, is this dystopian future or apocalypse? We realized that the lines are so blurred because that's what the masters do with this craft and this
Right.
topic right here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the blend of the two is very important.
So you had an apocalyptic event that caused a migration, and next thing you know, we have a dystopian universe.
Right.
We have starvation and things
Right.
and society is broken.
Right.
You
have an alien
no zombies
invasion,
really around.
and then you have a nuclear explosion
Yeah,
because
right.
of that particular, so
That's true, and that causes that. So which one causes?
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Or,
Try to
or an
keep up.
earthquake that's going to create tsunamis is also going to create a nuclear fallout because of that. So there's all these different things that the world's going to happen to itself because of what's going on.
The nuclear fallout caused mutations.
Caused mutations.
Monsters.
It caused monsters.
Yeah, so anyway.
So it goes down.
David mentioned he's a writer, and I'm a fan. I don't know. So, all right, next up.
Okay, so the one point here is, though, even though some will survive,
Right.
some will get out of this.
Right.
You're going to have famine. We talked about you're not going to have crops anymore, depending if there's no sky anymore
Right.
because of a volcano that's
So
going
you
to cover
might-
the soot with the atmosphere.
Right.
No more sunlight, no more crops, no more food,
Or food, then death.
and then death. Right.
Not necessarily from
Right.
the apocalypse,
Right.
but a secondary
Exactly.
effect. Yeah.
Exactly. Then
That's
you
what we're
have
talking about now.
plague,
Secondary,
you have
tertiary.
famine,
Yep.
and you have ultimately chaos.
Chaos. Yeah.
And I think that is
Survival of the fittest.
Right, and I think
That's what
that
turns into lawlessness.
the compassion to help, that's always there, but it's going to turn, and it's going to turn chaotic because again, there's too many people. If you had
There
a small
certainly is.
town where you could like a western town, if the apocalypse happened in the Wild West,
Yeah.
right, and there was a cataclysmic event that people were running for their lives. If you have 50 people in a town or 100 people in a town, it's a lot easier to communicate with them on what to do
Sure.
and keep them in line, so to speak. Because
Right.
you need to have representation, someone to help. That you need a leader. You need law enforcement.
There has to
some
be,
degree.
yeah. It can't be so far gone that they even forgot how to speak language.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
Like, how cut off are these people?
But the bigger cities you have, it just takes that one person, and then we're like cattle.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna follow along with that. Even
That's
if
what I'm
I'm
saying.
not
I said
someone
earlier,
who wants
yeah.
to loot, if I know what's going on and I'm passing by a store and I'm trying to get home, but I know I don't have any food or water to get back to Michigan,
Yeah.
then I might have to try to go in that store.
Dude, I even do it now. There ain't no damn apocalypse. I'm at the grocery store and there's some free samples.
Right.
I'm like, some free samples. I'm opportunistic by nature, man. There ain't gotta be no damn zombies. I'm still gonna take it. Okay, it's good.
That's awesome.
That's good. Oh, and then you come by the second time, like you act like you just found it. Oh, what's this? Haven't seen this. Let me try this. The lady holding it's like, whatever, dude.
Right.
Wait till a fresh group of people come out, so they don't think this guy just sitting there. Anyway.
No, you're actually right. That's gotta get what you can get it.
And that gets into the psychology of how to surprise the apocalypse, which I
Right.
think we're going to cover in the more
or less in part
section.
2, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to turn this into, we'll cover it
Right.
later, but seriously, there's a lot to cover, guys. That's
There
what we're
is.
doing two episodes.
But the idea of self-preservation, that's going to override the instincts of helping people, right? You're going to have to
Right.
you're going to have to help yourself. You're going to have to help your family. You can be a good Samaritan to a point, but in every movie, when you're a good Samaritan,
Usually,
it's gonna be look at Bird Box.
Bird Box. Well, that was simply following a formula.
Yeah.
They didn't cover any new ground.
No,
but
no.
you're just saying,
But when you-
the most recent movie I can
Right.
think of, guess
Now,
what?
is
2
now-
months ago, the Samaritan got his ass kicked first.
Exactly.
Even the really nice guy was like, I'll try the computer monitor thing, guys. Cool.
And then he gets his
They're
ass,
like, well, instead of waiting outside the door, we'll just go walk around the house. Anyway.
Right, exactly,
I love that.
right. So, but with that being in mind, like the fact that maybe games and movies, it's always about doom and gloom. It's never about that we will work together and we will help each other.
And here's
right?
the thing, it's entertainment, as you know.
Right.
I think you're setting this point up. I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's, you know why? It's conflict.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit in a 2.5-hour movie about how everyone worked it out.
Right,
I
there's
mean,
no conflict
actually,
there.
maybe I would, but there'd have to be conflict in order to set up a resolution.
Right.
Chicken or the egg.
Right.
I really think the conflict comes first.
You had to have conflict, otherwise you have no story.
There you go.
It comes down to
There
it.
it
Now,
is.
there's another article I read from Tor.com, Tor.com.
Okay.
It was an interesting article about the fact that panic, looting, that idea of what man's going to do in a situation like that is a myth.
Right, and it very well could be.
And they claim
Maybe-
that
yeah.
books and movies are really doing us in service because they're showing you the bleakness of humanity as opposed and that's one of the parts I talked about is Katrina and how people and the firefighters and helping and the forest fires the forest fires out in California.
Absolutely.
How everyone's helping each other.
Yeah.
And they're saying that that's what's going to happen. The myth is the panic, the looting,
Right.
the chaos that's going to ensue. And I think we all believe that's going to happen that way because we see humanity. We've seen what we're capable of doing.
Right.
We are an evil species. We've done some really nasty things
Absolutely.
in our history. So we think that's probably still going to be the case. But this claims that it's a myth. Society will bloom for a night, for a week, for a month, for a short time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say it's not a myth immediately. It's a myth immediately. It's not going to.
Right.
We are going to help each other. We are going to work together. And it's going to. And society's actually going to be awesome
Gonna
for a
thrive
little
and
while.
bloom. Right, we're gonna say it's like called stepping up.
Right.
So the morality and the humanity and the niceness will actually flourish.
Right.
And we're not talking about any more people dying or whatever. Just people to help each other. There'll be a bloom of that, the positive
Exactly.
energy. In fact, that's true because that's based in reality. That's what we've seen. The thing is that the scriptwriters in the pitch room, they never say, "Hey, I got this movie." Well, it's about fighting a wildfire for 3 months, or it's about helping these tornado and these flood victims for 4 months.
Right.
It's like, no, that's not too epic enough.
Well,
we want to go epic, and here's the reality, and I'm happy for this. There hasn't been an epic flood that went on for years and years. You know what I mean? That hasn't really been to that scale, and that's the unknown element of why we're talking about this.
Right.
Because that, yes, that's a myth, but yeah, that's a myth when on the small scale, and we know that. But have you seen it on a large scale? No.
That's
No
the
one
thing
has.
is in time.
In
time. Time is going to be the death of all mankind, right?
Yes.
For every person,
True.
time is your
That's
greatest
right.
enemy.
That's right.
And it's going to be the greatest enemy
We are
of this.
mortal.
So yes, if it does flourish, and all of a sudden, someone from a church, someone who's great talking to people, he starts to, get people to, follow along with him, and he creates this, thriving center.
Yeah.
Eventually, supplies are going to run out.
That's right.
Eventually, the water is gonna be turned off, or something's gonna happen where you're not gonna have the safety that you have, and things will start getting.
And when safety turns off, I think the philanthropy and the giving turns off.
And that turns off too, exactly.
And
so
then-
now you're forced to making those tough choices.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we want to think that we're going to work together. We want to be or optimistic about it.
Right.
But I think we know as humans we're.
Well, yeah, but
Probably
did they
not
go
gonna
on
work
for
that
years?
way.
But did
Right.
they go on for years?
Exactly.
I mean, we all know that people
Right.
kind of die alone. I mean, it's kind of, you put two people in a prison,
Right.
and there's an air hole, one air hole, and you're running out of air. Like, it's going to get, all bets are off, man. I've said
Right.
it before other podcasts. Like, it's kind of nasty. The people die alone. They're going to die to try to get that air.
You're absolutely right.
And people are going to, instead of dying held on to each other, like you think they would, even a man and a wife, or a woman and her husband. Like, dude, they're going to be at opposite ends of that room. It's just so kind of weird.
I love a good zombie movie that shows, or any kind of post-apocalyptic world where you're going through an old city or a town, and you're going through a house, and you see a family. It really kind of gets you where they're in bed and they're dead together.
Oh yeah, and they're all shriveled. Yeah, and there's like a bottle of pills.
Whether they pills, or mass suicide, or something like that, But
it's on stage. You're like, what happened here?
Right, you're like, oh,
they have that in spades in a video game.
Exactly.
Like, what happened here? And actually, you'll see a little note, and it's it really sets up the world.
Right.
Why don't you check out, guys, if you have a minute, here's a plug, shameless plug for
do it.
What makes a game great.
Okay.
And what makes the story great really is that immersion
nice.
element. And when you see that shot of what happened here and the bodies, and how did they go out and how did they make their decision?
Right.
That really compels you too, and it's another reason why we love the genre.
Absolutely. There's so much to love about this genre, and this is just a sampling. But again, we're talking doom and gloom today, right?
Right. We are.
We're not talking about hope and prosperity and what's going to happen afterwards.
Right.
But this is the apocalypse. So you're right. So we can help. We're going to help. But for how long?
For how long?
It doesn't go on for years. We're talking months.
Yeah.
They talked about months as like the the crowning point where that might work for months. But
Right.
then stuff's going to go bad.
Right.
And then that's when it's going to happen. Whether you have looters, whether you have people who have... So you have that society.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who doesn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, right. And,
Right.
and you see that a lot in the movies. There's always that
Right.
asshole.
Right.
I can't take it anymore. I was like, calm down, Phil. No, I don't know. I'm going to run out of here. And then what's the first thing that happens? And now
kill
Phil's
him.
the damn zombie. Oh, damn it,
Okay.
Phil.
How about take the other extreme of that? Take the other extreme.
Yeah.
The other groups who don't want to live in a society
sure,
like that.
sure. But that's
Who
Walking
want
Dead.
what
like,
you have.
Yeah. You
Because
know?
they're the ones that are surviving. Like, we talk about Walking Dead a lot, and
Yeah,
that's going to be a part of that.
that's
Where
almost the gold
if you have a
standard,
civilization, a little group that's well fortified, well stocked, well fed,
How would you put
people are going to want what you have.
Put a target on yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's part of it.
Here's-
Is, so you talk about building a stronghold. How
Yeah.
do you build your stronghold?
Well, you have to have defenses.
Right. Okay. What happens in this house right now? There's a zombie outbreak. How do you fortify this house, Rob?
Well, we start with the heavy furniture at any
Okay.
point of entry. You
Okay.
got to watch a point. Are things coming in, or
They're
what are we
gonna-
trying to seal out? Is it just light? Is it just bird box? All I got to do is put some paper up, and we're safe.
Okay.
Paper's
But if it's like alien, it's zombies.
Zombie with laser. I don't know yet. I don't know what their weak point is. You got to go and all this
Yeah,
information.
you do.
I
You've
start
seen
firing.
movies.
But
know.
you shoot for the head. When they're dead, they're dead. Yeah. If it's vampires, I have a squirt gun of holy water, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So who am I dealing with here? But by and large, yeah, seal all the exits. Make it so it seems like no one's home.
Right.
No one's here.
Right.
Maybe that's a stupid idea.
So,
but that's my knee-jerk reaction.
Right, okay.
Just close all the windows.
So
Pretend like you're not home.
I live in we have a colonial. Okay, so we sleep upstairs.
Yeah.
What happens if someone's breaking a house like that? Like, what do I do? Like, if I have to get out of the house, well, there's a window where we can, in the office, if we can get to that room,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some stuff down the stairs so no one can get up.
Yeah.
Like, throw, a bunch of
Barricade.
furniture down the stairs
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
can't get up the stairs.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have to do something and get out the window so you can get on top of the roof.
Yeah.
And you get on top of the roof, if you have a flood, if you have something like that, but if you have zombies coming through the house, you got to get out.
Yeah,
right?
but being on top of something's always good. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
so
We know
exactly.
that.
And so,
yeah.
but then you have to think about, am I going to be able to get to where I need to get? Where are my weapons at? All my knives are downstairs.
Yeah.
My baseball bat's by my bed. I got that.
Okay, but
where is everything located at?
yeah, that's
and
true.
how fast are you going to react to the situation?
And that's what the question was. What do you do right now?
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. So, but I'm always fascinated with the idea. Like I brought it up again. I'm going to bring it up one more time. Is what do you do when you're not home? You talked about the blackout.
That's true. Yeah.
The blackout in 2003 or so.
You know when it happened?
We were going to Vegas.
I was at work.
Okay. There you
So
go.
I had a commute. Here's my journey.
Yeah.
My typical commute home. Mm-hmm. That usually is 10 minutes.
Right.
It took an hour. Okay, that wasn't. I'm not crying about that, but it's just
Sure.
to put it in perspective.
Right.
Took 10 times, 6 times as long.
Right.
So 5 times, 6 times as long.
Think about you're going a lot longer than that distance.
Yeah,
though.
they call them snowpocalypse. There's a snowstorm once in Chicago. No power went out, but it was just so much snow. My hour ride home or 50-minute ride home was
Right.
4.5 hours.
Exactly. And it just creates
like,
mass
whoa.
chaos, and then you're not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Nope.
So if I'm trying to get home, how do I get home? I don't have the right car to go where I need to go.
Dude, and you don't
know what
carry
I'm
your
saying?
baseball bat in your car.
Exactly.
That's at home.
Exactly.
So where's your weapon?
But I also got to make sure I have enough gas to get home.
Oh.
So there's all these things that you're talking about, and that's when we're talking about what do you do after that.
Yeah.
These are the things that go through my head. You
Yeah.
know, when I'm watching a movie and putting myself in those situations. That's the things that I love.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn that on its head.
Okay.
Because you're so into the what do you do now?
Right.
It happens at the onset. This is emergency, which is great survival tactics.
Right.
You know where my head's at?
Where?
My journey through this whole discussion, everyone, led to knowledge and
Okay.
information. It's got to
Okay.
come from my teacher family that I was
Yeah,
born
of
into.
course. Absolutely.
And the professors that came before me. But what about knowledge? What about information? Like, the thing that I saw once, I think we saw the same documentary. You have to hide who you are. If you're a doctor, how do anyone else know I'm a doctor?
Right.
You can birth babies and you can sew up wounds. Oh man, you might as well be, you might as well
Right.
have a trunk full of gold. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
'Cause, oh, by the way, gold's not really that valuable anymore. I mean,
Right.
kind of is. It's
Well,
precious
it
metal.
will be at that point.
Okay, but how about this?
It'll
A
be
trunk full of $100 bills that are just paper?
Nope.
You could burn it once for heat.
Right, exactly. And what will you do for that? Exactly.
Yeah. But
Right?
what's in this man's head? Not me, but let's say I'm a doctor, or what? I know science things. Actually, I know how to make chemical reactions. I don't, maybe that's useful.
Yep.
So what was put that target in your head? You kept thinking, well, get your compound and have your lights and your safety and everything. I'm like, that's a huge target on your back.
Right.
But what fascinated me, folks, and think about this: what do you know up here? How valuable is up here or here?
Do you have the skills?
If I found a mechanic that can fix any car and get it working no matter what
Right.
in like the fastest time ever. Like he's, you know what I mean, Mario Andretti's mechanic. Like he can fix anything anywhere, and he's really fast.
Right.
Oh my God, dude! I will pay you whatever you need to be on my team, you know, or be. Oh, there I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So you see what I'm saying? You start thinking, what's valuable in this world,
Exactly.
and everyone goes to more guns and more food and more, and I'm going. What about the person that's a comforter? What about that psychiatrist? And she's really good at calming people down who are going to freak the F out.
Right.
If we have a talker, a healer in the group, someone that, that's just as valuable. Keeping people from snap.
You need an engineer.
Is a person that can make a cake.
We're getting down this path here.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that's the thing.
So start thinking about these. What is valuable? Because you're
valuable?
always like, in the very instances, a weapon's valuable, gas is valuable, these things. But the burn that I'm going through is, will we have our humanity in 50 years because people actually remembered how to read and how to speak foreign languages or how to interpret and how to have compassion.
Right.
See, these things aren't very important in the first hour or minute, are they? Hey, let's talk to the zombie. Boom! I mean, it's like, we always see that guy. Let's hug it out here. Yeah, he gets run over.
Right.
But he might have been really valuable
down the road.
5, 10 years, 20,
whenever
rebuilding
it was necessary.
Exactly. We're going society.
So what do you have that's going to help you?
It's true.
Right? There's this really awesome questions that we're going to talk about in part 2.
Yeah.
All right. So now
let's set it up.
In the end here, we know that we're decent as human beings. We're going to pull together, but eventually we know mankind is evil.
Yeah.
Mankind is going to destroy.
Yeah.
We like to hope and think that we're going to work together. And I think in the end, we will to a point.
Right. Well, it might come in waves. There's an initial bloom.
Right.
You talk about that bloom. I said, well, what about that bloom later that happens?
Exactly.
Trust me, when those 181 people left on Earth run into each other, at first you're going to be like, yo, are you a threat? I mean, but eventually you'll be like, yo, come here.
Right.
Oh, my God.
I
need someone else.
It depends upon the person.
Right.
Right?
True.
Someone who's
and the trauma
off,
they went through, by the way.
Someone who doesn't like people in the first place.
True.
Or someone has issues with trust.
Yeah.
They're automatically not going to trust you. But you have someone who... Right. But someone who's really like...
Look at Morgan the first time they found him in Walking Dead. He was a nutbag.
Right.
He ended up turning into like Monk Master. Look at his, I know how characters change, but...
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that's one of the things I mentioned earlier is those character changes.
Well, you got to watch out. You meet this solo guy. Is he going to be a complete nutbag and like shoot everything on sight? Well, how do you think he survived for 10 years? He shot everything on sight.
And how do you know to let that guy through? So that's what we're going to start talking about that in part 2.
Okay.
But another thing that I want to talk about in part 2 is, did movies and video games set us up for failure?
True.
We talked about that a little bit before about how, they make us think that we're always going to turn each other.
Right. The stories that sell the best are the ones that are probably the fakest.
Right. The most grim.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, right?
The galaxy far, far away.
Right.
$1 billion franchise. Totally fake.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So fake sells.
Fakes does sell, right?
But they were talking about apocalypse here, so it's probably fake that people will just all hell break loose and no one is going to help each other.
Right. But again, after a while, it will.
Right,
but
that's still our speculation, Jay.
Right.
So.
Of course it is. But will we work together?
I think so.
Right. Will we work together? Can we work together?
Exactly. How? I love that. Now I'm a nuts and bolts guy, dude.
Right.
How?
Exactly.
All the different. If you guys are all warriors, okay, congratulations. That's what some guys think. I'm going to get all the guns and all the strong guys. Like, you need to build that team.
Right.
So who's on your team?
Exactly. Who's on your team?
Who are the people you want around you?
Who are you going to pick around you? Exactly.
And not only that, what do you do inside? Can you adapt?
Can you adapt? Can you trust people? Can you trust yourself to adapt?
Right.
Right?
Some people, they do suicide, right? As we'll see. You walk in and they do the mass suicide thing. People just can't handle it.
How about this? Can you trust your family to do what's necessary in order to keep everyone... So here's my fear.
Yeah. The whole put me down if I turn to a zombie, kill me thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Having young kids.
Oh,
now, I use this as an example. Like, when they're crossing, we live on a street it's somewhat busy, but at the same time, there's a curve, so people kind of slow down to it. Yeah. But I'm always, no matter what, you look both ways, you stop, you look both ways across the street. And there's many times where they didn't. And I yell at them as they're doing it to stop, and they don't stop. So I sit and say, okay, what's going to happen when there's something really serious? There's a car that's actually bearing down on them.
Stop thing, right? Yeah.
I'm not going zombies just yet on that situation.
Well,
I'm just talking about a car is actually bearing down.
Yeah, exactly.
How are they going to listen?
Yes.
So let's transpose that. Let's put that in a different situation. Yeah. I need you to be quiet. You can't make a sound right now. You can't even make a peep.
Right.
Can you listen to what I'm telling you and obey me?
I don't know.
And that's what terrifies me.
Yeah. Dad, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So part 1, I hope you enjoy listening to us ramble about us and the gloom and gloom. But part 2 is going to bring out a lot of different things about humanity and about the skill sets you're requiring, about the types of people you want to be around, and of course about video games and movies.
And hope.
And hope. We're going to end it with a nice way to end it, so it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom, but for the most part, we got to be very careful with the onset. So let's prepare ourselves to get ready.
That's right.
What are we going to do? Are you going to be able to adapt?
That's right.
And then, what are the games and the movies that influence us
That's
to get to where we are? We talked about a few of them, but stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Prepare yourself for the apocalypse. It's coming. Armageddon's going to happen. Let's get prepared. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Uh-oh. I don't know. All right.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, like, and follow us, and come back for part 2 shortly.
All right.
All right, later.
Thanks.